Welcome everyone. This session is called Learning Circle from Algorithm to Predictions. This session is really about unpacking a simple but very important idea that AI isn't magic. It's a system that makes prediction under uncertainties. And while the system can often seem incredibly accurate, they can also be misleading in ways that aren't always very obvious. So, through today's session, we will start building intuition for how these predictions actually work and what it means to think about them critically. Uh, are we going to be receiving a certificate attending it? Yes, there will be a for the webinar, no, but for the course, yes, you will receive a certificate of participation in attending it. Again, this session will also be a small glimpse into the classroom of one of the courses we're offering as part of the Ashoka Horizons GS program. The course is called Learning, Computer Science Harnessing Your AI Superpower. Uh, Yes, in the course, student will go much deeper into how AI systems can make predictions using probability and data by unpacking the mathematical foundations behind modern AI, which will include bias theorems and the bias of. They will also learn issues like bias, overfitting, and unreliable data, and how that can affect the outcomes that you get from the AI, and why models that seems accurate can still fail in practice. There will also be a strong hands-on component where students will work on probability-based language models, where they will build and evaluate their own NGRAM models to see how predictions change with context. And towards the end, the course will culminate in a capstone project where students will either further refine and analyze these models' assumptions and limitations, or they will take on the role of an AI auditor, conduct a rigorous audit of a real-world AI claim, where they will assess its evidence, biases, and validity. Top students will also earn a very exclusive and extended opportunity to work on a research project on citizen-facing AI developments by the government, exploring how AI is shaping the policies in education, agriculture, health, and manufacturing. The course is scheduled to be part of the edition one of our program, which is scheduled from May 23rd to June 14th. The live classes will take place exclusively on the weekends with office hours on weekdays. And the course will be taught by Professor Alok Thakkar, who's a professor of computer science at Ashoka University, and his research lies at the intersection of AI and formal logic with a focus on building AI systems that are trustworthy and robust. He also completed his PhD at the University of Pennsylvania. And before his academic appointment, before he got with us at Ashoka, he also worked with organizations such as Amazon Web Services, Bell Labs, and Adobe Systems. Supporting him in this course in the capacity of a teaching fellow will be the instructor of the session, Mihir Moore. Mihir is excuse me. Uh, Mihir is a research associate at Safe Express Center for Data, Learning, and Decision Sciences at Ashoka, currently focusing on AI-driven weather modeling. He also holds a Bachelor's in Science and Master of Sciences degree from the Indian Institute of Science, Education, and Research in Bhopal with a major in mathematics. And previously, he was a research intern at IIT Bombay and at the Laboratory for Analysis and Architecture of Systems in Toulouse, France. So I don't know about you guys, but after that introduction, my expectations for the upcoming session have been raised significantly. So no pressure me here. And yeah, I guess it's over to you now.
Thank you, Virat, for your kind introduction. I think we can begin this session. Yeah. So, in this session, I'll be giving all you guys a small sneak peek into the classroom of this course. And I think without any further ado, we will directly get into the topics, right? Virat, could you please share the next slide? Yeah. Guys, please feel free to interrupt me at any point of time if you have any questions, if you have any doubts. And I want this session to be interactive, so please feel free to unmute yourself and or type your answers in the chat box, whichever is comfortable to you. Right. So we'll begin. Yeah, I'm coming to the slide. Yeah. So we'll begin by the case of this lady. So the lady in the picture is Sally Clark. She is a mother of two, and she is accused of murdering her two infant sons. We have to make a judgment whether she is a murderer or not. Uh, Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Uh, Previous one, previous one. Yeah. So to help us arrive at our judgment, we have this gentleman with us, who is an expert. And according to him, these deaths may look like a rare syndrome, which is called SIDS. Uh, s- just one second. Sorry. So, according to this expert, these deaths may look like a rare syndrome, which is called SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. But two deaths by this syndrome seem too unnatural to him. He makes some calculations and comes up with a number that the chance of one baby dying of this syndrome in a family like hers is 1 in 8,500. So the chance of two babies dying is simply 1 by 8,500 times 1 by 8,500, which is roughly equal to 1 in 73 million. So, in simple words, there is 1 in 73 million chance that these babies have died of this syndrome, or there is 1 in 73 million chance that Sally, the lady in the picture, is innocent. Put in a different way, there is 99.9999% chance that she is a murderer. So, what shall we do? Shall we put her in jail, or is she innocent? Any thoughts on this, guys? Any guesses from the audience? Yeah, so proof is exactly what the expert is saying, right? So there is 1 in 73 million chance that this lady is innocent, and there is 99.999% chance that she is a murderer, and that's all we have at our disposal. So based on this, we have to make a judgment whether she is a murderer or not. No, so, no concrete evidence is there to us. No, so all this test, we do not have access to them. The only evidence presented to us is that this mathematical arguments, and we only have to arrive at our judgment using these arguments alone and nothing else. Yeah, which is fair, I guess, but at the end, we are judges and we have to make a judgment. Any guesses what could be the case? And of course, as any murderer would say, she's saying that I didn't kill my babies. So, any guesses? Sure, murderer. Any other guesses? Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, so as most of you are pointing that she is a murderer, and clearly by this calculation, it seems that she is a murderer because if there is 99.999% chance that she is a murderer, how can she be innocent, right? Because there is only 0.00001% chance that she is innocent. Well, these numbers were quite convincing to the judges of the jury as well, and eventually she was jailed. Next slide, please. Yeah. So, so she was in jail for a couple of years until this gentleman. challenged the double baby murder case. So, if we look closely, there were two fundamental errors in the judgment of this expert. Can any of you guess what those errors could be? So, we arrived at a number 1 in 73 million, right? So, what did we use to arrive at that number, or what could be the fundamental what we looked at while arriving at that numbers? Any guesses? Can you guys make some guess what could be the possible mistakes in the expert's opinion? Any guesses, guys? What could possibly go wrong in those calculations? Well, so there were two fundamental errors in the calculations of the expert. If we go back, how did we arrive at the number 1 in 73 million? What we did, we simply multiplied two probabilities, that was 1 in 8500 into 1 by 8500, which is a correct thing to do if the two events are independent, right? Independent events are events which are which do not affect each other, right? Can any of you give me example of independent events? Have you seen independent events? Can you think of any independent events? So independent events are events which do not affect each other. Based on this, can you construct any examples? I'll start with a simple example, right? Uh, so
Me, we do
example,
have some examples in the chat box.
I
Some
see.
sort.
Sorry, I could not see them. Uh, Right, these are two independent events, right? So flipping two coins. So the probability of getting head on one coin does not affect the probability of getting a head on other, right? So these are some, yeah, a coin toss and a dice roll are two independent events. Two random people's birthday on the same day might be a independent event, and so on. So when events are independent, we can actually multiply their probabilities. And remember how we arrived at that number 1 in 73 million? We simply multiplied those two probabilities, which was 1 in 8500 and 1 in 8500, and that was roughly equal to 1 in 73 million, which is a fair thing to do if the events are truly independent. But since these babies were from exactly, those events are not independent, right? Because those two babies were from a same mother, and there could be any possible reason of any common reason for their death. Yes, exactly. So some genetic disorder might be there, or something like that. There could be a possible reason for their common death, right? So this was the first fundamental error made by the expert. Could you please go to the next slide? Yeah. And this, even if we now assume that these events are truly independent, what did expert look? Expert only looked at the probability of these deaths by this syndrome, while completely ignoring the probability of double murder by a loving mother. So if he would have calculated this probability, he would have find that this probability of double murder by a loving mother is incredibly rare than even than the probability of these deaths by this syndrome. So when statisticians finally fixed the math, they finally found it was actually twice as likely to be the deaths by this syndrome than murder. After serving 3 years in prison, Sally was eventually released, but the stress had ruined her life and she died shortly after. And by the way, guys, this is a true case, and a small math error can actually ruin lives. So, yeah, so this is exactly what, yeah, it was a for wrong conviction. So this is exactly the crux of Bayes' theorem, guys. So Bayes' theorem is about updating your beliefs or priors on when you are presented some new evidence. Could you please go to the next slide? Yeah. So in this case, look, if we set our prior to be Sally Clark being innocent, than setting that she is a murderer, the picture completely changes. So if we set our prior to be that Sally is innocent and evidence that these two children have died, the court's mistake was looking at the probability of Sally of these two deaths if Sally is innocent and completely ignoring the probability of Sally being innocent given that these two children have died. Right? To make our lives simpler, uh, could you please go to the next slide? And to get a bigger picture of what exactly is happening, we will assume that Sally lived in a village of 100 families, right? So, in this village of 100 families, this syndrome is rare, right? It happens to one out of every 10 families. So, there are 10 families in this village of 100 families where you could find this syndrome. But if we now look at a murder, the murder is even much rarer. It happens only in one out of 100 families, right? Now, if we look at, suppose now, if two children die in some family, then we have 11 possible set, right? 11 possible sample set. 10 families where the death might be from the syndrome, while one family where it's actually a murder. And now, in this set of 11 families, if we now calculate the chance of innocence, it turns out to be 10 by 11, right? Which is roughly equal to 91%, while the chance of guilt is only 1 by 11, which is roughly equal to 9%. So even when with the evidence, the probability of innocence remains significantly higher, and this exactly is the crux of Bayes' theorem. And believe me, guys, this simple mathematical idea governs most of the world in AI. So be it your next token recognition and your favorite LLM, be it your autofill command in your email writing or WhatsApp writing. This is exactly the logic behind which all this works. Could you please go to the next slide? So, the broad takeaway from this is next time you see something like 99.9999%, please do not forget to ask what is the prior and be a Bayesian. So, yeah, so next slide, please. So, like this only, we'll be in this course, we'll be developing this mathematical foundations which govern this world of AI. A simple example of that is n-gram language models, which are foundations for text prediction and analysis. So, n-gram models are the models which are used in next word prediction in your email, your WhatsApp, or whatever it be, in your favorite LLMs like GPT, Codex, and so on. Next slide, please. So, I think there is one question. I'm not understanding one thing though. If they believed murder, why not check for weapons or weird poison receipts, or and why they believe algorithms? So unfortunately, that's what not happened. They did not think of checking all of these things. They only went on with the arguments that were mathematical arguments, and it was found that, or wrongly found, that she actually is a convict based on only those arguments, which was very unfaithful for her or very unfortunate for her. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll start with a basic unigram language model. So how does a unigram language model works is as follows. So it starts with a certain data set, something like this, which is shown on your screen. So if you count the number of words in this data set, you would find that there are 17 words. Now, if you find the word frequency of each of the word, you will find that the word the is has the highest word frequency. So your unigram model, what it will do when it if it is asked to guess the next word in any sentence, it will always pick the word the, because it does not understand context, right? It does not understand context. It just predicts the next word based on this statistical frequency in the training data set. The bigram model, could you please go to the next slide? So why is cat sat on only 2 by yeah, previous slide please. Yeah. Yeah, so cat appears twice in the data set, right? Uh, so they have 2 by 17 probability, and sat also appears two times, and so on. So the appears one, two, three, four, five, 6 times. So it has the word frequency is 6 by 17 and so on, right? And since the unigram model lacks context, when asked to predict the next word, it would only predict the always, because it only makes prediction based on these frequencies and it lacks context in some sense. Bigram model, on other hand, has some context. So after the, what possible words could follow? If we go back to the data set again, could you please go back to the data set? The previous slide, please. So in this data set, we know, right, कि on cannot be followed by the, or 8 cannot be followed by the, sat cannot be followed by the, on won't be followed by the, and so on. So there is some context in bigram models, and n-gram models is just a generalization of this. And this is what would be covered in detail in this course and so on. So we'll be playing around with different techniques to develop these models. There is something called as a Markov chain method and so on. Could you please go to the next slide? Yeah. And yeah, so n-gram model is the generalization of this. So yeah, that's was all from my side. I hope you enjoyed this short session, and I hope you do join us to study in depth this engram models and this basics of math which actually govern your next chat GPT prompt and the answer you get from it. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Virat.
Thank you so much, Mihir, for that very insightful presentation. If you guys have any other questions that you would like to ask me here, feel free
Yeah,
to
please
type
feel
them
free.
in the chat box or just raise your hand and unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Well, Abhi has been satisfied with the presentation. So anyone else? I guess not. But to be honest, if you could just we do have one. Sharia is wondering, could AI understand the genuine context of the conversation one day and give us words? What
It
do you
does,
have to
right?
say for
It does, right? If you ask your LLM to actually reply to an email, it does understand the context and it comes up with something, right? It's actually scary how powerful these AI tools have become, and if we mess up a bit. So, to give you a context, so self-driving cars are not that popular in India, but they are quite active in US, right? You might have heard of Tesla driving on highways in US. And suppose this self-driving car is driving on a highway and a very rare object comes in front of it. So, will it apply brakes or just run over it, considering a, that the object is like a plastic bag or something? So, these are very important questions which are actually governed by this mathematical foundations on it, and they are really serious questions which need to be addressed to make sure that this AI does not mess up. So, yeah, it do you believe something as complex as the brain can get generalized into simple language model based on mathematical prediction? If so, could it also be used to remake human consciousness? Well, that is a more philosophical question, but what I would think is it is definitely has become not, I would not say as complex as the human brain, because a lot of humans have a lot of freedom of motion, right? We are not yet, we are still far from this agentic robots and so on, but definitely in thinking sense, in doing math, now this AI tools can do independent research, they still require some validation and so on, but yeah, definitely we are heading towards that. And human consciousness, I'm not very sure. At some point, will AI be able to feel or replicate emotions? I hope not. In emails, does the AI read the subject? Yeah, if you uh, ask it to write the reply to it, then it definitely does. Uh, Understand emotions. I don't think it understand emotions currently, but if, yeah. An AI had said that it wanted to wage war. Was that something that humans had fed it, or did it form its own judgment? I'm not quite sure about this, but yeah, currently it can't think on its own. So it only answers to what you ask. Yeah.
I know that we have a lot of questions coming in, and I
Yeah,
want to actually bring them all together in some ways. But
yeah,
before that, I actually have a couple of questions for our audience as well. Virat, if we could just stop sharing the screen and we can actually make this into a back and forth conversation. So I could see that multiple of you guys have interests in terms of understanding whether AI can feel emotions, whether it's something that can actually act as a human being. And I have just one question for all of you. Answer by raising your hand, okay? How many of you have used ChatGPT at any point? Let's just do a show of hands. I am expecting it to be all across, but let's see. So we do seem to have some students who've not used ChatGPT. Okay. And now if you could go to your chat box and give me some context and tell me what have you used ChatGPT for? Have you used it for mathematical calculations? Have you used it to do your homework? Have you used it to craft a response to a question? Have you used it to actually improve the kind of writing that you've done? Like, maybe you've written an essay which is 250 words long and you want to improve. What are the uses that you have had? Everything is a very vague answer. So list one or two of those. If we are dealing with philosophical questions about whether AI can feel emotions, if we want to tackle these questions, we need to be specific. Is all of the above an option? Is a very good answer, but it gives me. I didn't suggest all of the options that are possible. So I just want to get some insights from improvisation, whatever I have drafted for tech support. Shaurya, could you give me some context as to what you mean by tech support? Is it that you're doing coding in school and you're improving that in terms of maths and English? Writing a novel. That's an interesting one. So we've tried to use AI to create something fictional as well, to understand topics, to learn new things. So we've almost used it as a Google search that I want to learn more about unigram models. And I search into AI itself, what are unigram models? More as a supplementary tool when I've already written it. It's for image generation as well, for chit chatting as well, right? So this is a good point, largely for school stuff. Fixing home tech. Oh, so if your Wi-Fi isn't working, you go to your personal hotspot on ChatGPT and ask, how can I fix it? Okay. I mean, imagining the different scenarios that we've done. Swabhiman has mentioned making prototypes and brainstorming, and this is a new entry. So I do want to get to know prototypes of what per se. If you could just give me a little bit more context, and trust me, this data is going to be helpful in what I frame my next question for. Can I get a mic on for this? Yes, of course you can. Also, guys, if you raise your hand, we can allow you guys to talk, right? So, one second. I see we have multiple hands raised. One moment. So, Swabhiman, go ahead. Then we'll have Abir follow. Yeah. We don't seem to be able to hear you.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, so basically, by saying that I was making prototypes and brainstorming, it was basically still related to the whole like writing the novels, making storylines, sometimes chit chatting, and also a lot of brainstorming for like because I'm interested in going in the game development line in the future. So because of that, I have some ideas. So I try to just like throw it out and see what comes out of it after a long conversation. So that's the type of brainstorming I was talking about. Like, say, I had a small idea once that what if we made a world like it's a open world type game and the world is truly infinite. There's no end to it. So I try to see what are some ways we can do it without destroying a computer in the computer's memory in the process. So that was the type of brainstorming I was talking about. I would always like talk a lot. There's like so many chats I also have on the sidebar that I just never delete because they have one or two things I'll need in the future. So that's the type of brainstorming I end up doing with Chad. And also someone was saying Claude is better, which I also agree with.
I know. There are a lot of preferences in terms of, AI models as well. But I wanted to start with ChatGPT because that was the first one that became open access. And I'm not going to get into a debate about which one is better for what reason, guys. We're not going to do that. We just want to figure out how are we using AI tools in our current life. Yes, Abir. Over to you now.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Ma'am, I basically use AI for help with maths or science questions, and I also use it for programming help.
All right, perfect. So, if I were to just create a gist of all of the responses, right? The most popular use or the highest frequency we can see is for math and coding questions, homework related stuff. The second frequency is of English related things in terms of, when you're writing something. So either you're improving a draft you've already created or you're trying to work out an idea for a novel that you may have. How would I approach it? What are the chapters I would write? Then I can see some are for trying to figure out issues that you're coming up with. So it's almost like it's stepping in from you for YouTube or Google search, right? Where you're searching, this isn't working, how can I fix it? Um, then there's image generation and conversations to have with AI as well. So, what you can see here, that what I've done is essentially what a unigram model does. You get a data set and you are trying to figure out what is the highest frequency, and on the basis of that, you're making predictions. We have now gone down to the discussion of whether Gemini is better or Claude is better, which I will not engage with. These are your personal preferences, guys. I'm not gonna get into that at all. What I want to connect it to is what we were doing in this session. That to be able to understand how did we land on a big question when we started off with something very simple, right? This was simple mathematical probability based prediction. And how did AI become something so powerful that I can have a conversation about, I think I'm not feeling too great today, but I've also not had lunch. So, what do you think could be a reason behind it? And AI will actually give you an answer that maybe you should have a meal first, take 5 minutes to do a grounding activity. So there are actual responses being given to the context that you are providing. It almost emulates a human dialogic conversation, but it is not a human dialogic conversation. That is something I will highlight, especially with Mihir present here, because I don't want to oversell what AI is doing,
Yeah,
right?
thanks.
So, what Grok is very good to we are fine falling down that rabbit hole. We will not. So that essentially what I wanted to highlight is that the basic models of AI are based on maths. This is something I know for sure because we did a mathematical foundations of CS course last year and I was present for some of the sessions. So this is expertise that is coming from Professor Alok as well. So I'm hoping that I'll have better expertise on this by the end of this summer by attending some of the sessions. But I can say it with absolute surety that AI is not magic. And AI is not someone who is actually emulating a human consciousness. You've answered a lot of my questions. I have one question for a person, and don't use AI for the answer, guys. I know you can, but don't. How many neurons are present in a human brain?
I'm 8 to 9 billion.
And how much space do you think that's going to require if you were to make that into a data center?
Probably several exabytes.
All right. There is some conversation about Instagram happening also. You guys are very active right now. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep a track of everything that's happening. But essentially, not to delve too deep into the philosophical aspect of things, what does it mean to be human? How can you emulate human consciousness? But also touching upon it a little bit, I can't help it. I have my background in psychology. So when you ask me this question, when you ask us this question, I have to step in. In terms of human consciousness, it's not just something that's based out of your brain. It's actually your entire body that's creating electrical signals and giving you information about the external environment, your internal environment, and making judgments. There's a lot that's happening within your body. So, emulating human consciousness so far right now is not the goal of AI. I know we see a lot of reports like that AI can now emulate the intelligence level of a PhD scholar. We see reports about the fact that AI can now drive cars, and we see that happen, right? And Mihir gave us a very real possibility of these self driving cars will know how to navigate situations that they've been trained on. And then, as and when they are being used, they are being trained continuously. However, if it encounters something that's an entirely unique situation, and I can promise you, as human beings, while living life, encounter completely unique situations that don't have precedence before, how would it respond? And that's a question that nobody can answer. Or we can answer based on probability, but you can't have 100% surety on that, because you can't have surety in how humans will respond either. Swabhiman is ready to take on a difficult question, so I do want to hear your response for this.
Yes, sir, ma'am. Like for the sake of that, let's say what is the self-driving car is going, and it
Yes,
sees an unknown object. So we can specifically just say that if the object, we can first assess that whether the object is moving or not. Like if it's a stationary object, it means there's a higher chance that it's going to be an object, and if it
yeah,
is and if it has shows some form of movement, it is a living thing. But either way, if it's an unknown object, the car can simply just stop. Like we can just make it so that it engages its brakes and stops. But then comes the problem that the if there's, let's say it's on a highway, then there's cars in the behind. So what about them? So at that point is the drive. We could say that it's the driver in the behind's fault for not looking at directly at the road all the time. But then again, it becomes an issue about the AI again. So each answer is the start of a new question, and so there is no legit way to solve such a conundrum. But the one way we can always do is that we can just keep some sort of safeguard, as if like keeping the brakes on will just at least save that, whether even if that unknown thing might be a new animal that the AI has not been trained on, so that saves a life. But then it can backfire if it's just an object was affordable to, like, that the car could just crash through and not serve any harm anywhere else. So there's several layers to each and every problem, but I think my answer would be that we could just program it to stop no matter what comes in the way.
No, but if what if that object never moves? The car will stay at that point forever.
Yes, and because so that's why a lot of Tesla, even a lot of Tesla
Yeah,
vehicles have manual override for that exact reason. Like the driver can just like override and take over the steering whenever he wants to, he or she wants to, for
yeah.
such situations.
Right, right.
So human intervention is necessary at all times.
Sure. You
how
believe that, right?
Yeah, of course I do, because
Yeah,
I've overseen, like when I try making code, a lot of the time it generates the wrong code, and so when I just blindly put it in and try to make it, it says that this module is not working. So I'm like, why is it not working? And I realized that's because I didn't even check it once to see if it runs properly or not, and so I have to spend time debugging it then. So human supervision is, I believe, is required in every field that AI is taking over.
that makes me happy.
a good answer, but I also want to highlight one thing. There are some people who, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mihir, but I remember seeing this. There are some people who are now using driverless cars as taxis. So there's nobody on the driving wheel at all.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
imagine if I was one of the riders, I don't know how to drive. Even if I'm in the back seat and there's something that happens that's extraordinary, I can assure you I would be a worse driver than any other person in that situation. So that means that we're moving towards a model where human intervention may not always be possible, because we're holding a lot of trust in AI. But we do, every time we try to tackle these conundrums, we come to realize we do need human intervention, and we need human intervention that comes with the knowledge that's required. You are able to figure out that the code is wrong because you know how to do coding. So if you offload that work to AI entirely and you try to do something new that you don't have the skill for, you can't actually check whether it's hallucinating or whether it's making a mistake. For example, and I want to come back to the example that Mihir used because it's something that really struck with me. It had really, like, one of the most elusive things that I had found was that how are email predictions working? When you go to chat gpt, when you go to any of the kind of AI tools, I give it a prompt, right, and it's responding to me. But in an email prediction, I am writing something and it's figuring out what's next. And I think I was just like, how is this happening? Is it reading my mind? I was looking at it from a magic lens. And then Mihir broke it down for me that it is probability that it is working on. It knows how much, like, if I were to say I am happy to receive your response, or like, thank you for your response. Once I write thank you, it doesn't suggest anything. But when I say for, then I start getting suggestions. So that's where the bigram aspect of it is coming, right? If I'm not wrong, there's more context. So that it's able to make a prediction and suggest that. Oh, we are now also delving into philosophical questions. How is this even possible? Search for it. Search for it online, on Google, not on ChatGPT. It's there. I read about a case that happened as well. So that's why. There's one question that I missed out on earlier, which Sanj mentioned about, how can you use AI in a more sustainable way? I wish I could answer that question to you at an individual level, Sanj. I wish we could do something that would be leading to it being more sustainable at our level. However, these are decisions that are being made by major corporations, and these are decisions that are being made at the level of handling the servers and the data centers that go into AI. So, on a very honest and personal level, I don't think that you can find a sustainable way to use AI at the moment. However, you're much younger than me and most likely much smarter than me. So, hopefully you would find a solution. I'm pinning my hopes on you guys in some ways. The path to paradise leads through hell. I do enjoy this little bit of philosophy that always comes with AI, like when confronted with a technology that can almost emulate human consciousness, we start wondering what does it mean to be human. Ma'am, we might be able to. That's a great approach, Abir. And also, there's no need for ma'am. My name is Isha, in case you guys didn't notice. So, um, I do want to ask, when you're using these AI tools, right? Do you guys think that it has already been trained? The training is done and it's just responding on the basis of the training it's had. How do you think this is working? Yeah, the training keeps happening. A good point. So, when you come to realize that the training is happening and we seem to have an overarching view of how is AI responding to us, is there anybody here who can actually tell me how AI works? How are these models working? You can tell me about how Claude works, or you can tell me about how Grok works, or ChatGPT, whichever one you want to choose. Yes, Abir. And we have Swabhiman responding as well. Do you want to take a chance at explaining it to me by unmuting, Abir? It is pre-trained and then it is updated. Have you guys heard of the black box term? Like AI is often called a black box. So, Mihir, I'm going to pass on one question to you, and this is a question I have, and we don't need to delve too much into it, but I think it's a good one. And I'll just respond to Faith so that we can close this conversation and then move towards to a black box. In the case of driverless cars, when an accident occurs, do we pin it down to the person sitting in the car, the company who made the car, or the AI integrated with the car? You know what kind of question this is? This is a legal question. And this is what people are trying to actually answer. That is what is very interesting about the case that I had read as well. That when an accident happened in a driverless car and it was just a person who was in the taxi, they actually are suffering damages as well, right? Because they are in an accident and they didn't play any role in that accident. So, in a lot of ways, some of the problems that we're running into with offloading some of these human tasks to AI are leading to new laws and governances coming out live. So when you talk about AI, you're actually talking about something that's being that has been pre-trained and getting updated on its own front in a technical front. But we're also trying to keep up with it at a human level in terms of laws and regulations and how it can fit into our society. Yeah, if you can pin it on the AI, how do you really arrest AI? Do you stop it from working? Do you stop it from existing entirely? How is AI can be arrested? And when cars fail, because brakes fail all the time and accidents happen, Do you arrest the brain? No, you don't. So, yeah. But I want to now come to an important question because we came to a term which you guys have not come across, and it's an important one, right? Which is about AI being a black box. So, Mihir, if you could shed a little bit of light, and I'm using this term with the pun intended, on the black box model of AI and actually decode it for them, because then they could understand that these unigram models and bigram models are what are actually being expanded to be able to create these complex systems that they are interacting with.
Yeah, sure. So most of these models are LLMs. I hope all of you might have. So these are large language models which are trained on certain set of data, and there are various techniques which go into it, like say black propagation, weight updation, and whatnot. But at the end, we do not actually have a full grasp of how these models have evolved or have become this understanding. A lot of research has been going into this as well. But yeah, it certainly is a black box to some extent. So that's why it's very important to at least get the basics right. So what this mod so the basics right, the basics of probability, there are certain checks which these models must pass in order for in order to be harmless in some sense. Yeah.
All right. With this, we're now start going to move towards the closing of the webinar because we are at 11:57, and I usually try to pride us over us being on time, but we're going to extend a little bit, guys. So, Virat, over to you.
I think I'll go back to the slide. Give me a second. So as I said, this course is going to be offered in the edition one of the program, and it's one of the 9 courses that we're offering as part of the Ashoka Rising Achievers program, Summer 2026. And we're going to be covering disciplines such as psychology, economics, business and entrepreneurship, data science, and computer science. These are live sessions that are going to take place on Saturday and Sundays, and the office hour will take place on the weekends, which you can schedule with the teaching fellow of the course. As mentioned, each course will be offering us an exclusive extended opportunity, which will be different for each course, and they will be on discussion as for the faculty. For CS, computer science course, you're going to be exploring all the AIs that are offered by the government in sectors such as education, architecture, and agriculture, etc. In the past, we've also had students join us at Ashoka University and exploring the biosciences lab, and we've had students participate in mentorship and observership by with the faculty after the course ended. So yeah, top performing students have the can be eligible for extended opportunity, as well as there's a level of academic achievement which you can also gain from it. Yes, we pride Ashoka Horizons to be very well for overall experience. We have a 90% completion rating, which are the highest industry standards. We have been rated 4.6 by the students and 4.7 by the parents for overall experience of the program. And yes, that is it. If you would like to scan this QR code, you can go to the enrollment page of the program where you can see all the 9 courses being offered currently, and you can click on the register button to apply for the courses. These we in Horizons we do offer small cohorts to you know uh make sure we have each student get the proper engagement and attention. So that's why we operate on a rolling enrollment basis, and that's why we encourage students to apply early to secure their seats. If you have any other questions about the programs or the course, you can email us at horizons@ashoka.edu.in, or currently you can ask them in the chat or unmute yourself. Yes, the QR code is just to get to the enrollment page. We can also give you a link to the website that has been shared by Isha.
Thank you so much for keeping us on time, Virat. I will extend us for a little bit. I know that you guys have been a very engaged bunch. So, firstly, I want to thank you all for that constant engagement. I'm sure Mihir was able to actually really build upon the thing, especially about Sally's case with the back and forth that you've had. And I know that you've been able to have a lot of deep conversations and start get them rolling right now. So I think if you're interested in actually expanding upon those conversations, I really recommend checking out the course, because you would actually get into the mathematics of it, you would get into the nitty gritties of it, and then you would be able to be more equipped to answer these questions instead of wondering them at a legal and philosophical level. You can actually think of it from a data science level and a data scientist level, sorry. So those would be a great, I think that would be a great opportunity. I've shared the link with you for the upcoming courses in Horizons. You can also check out other courses that you might be interested in, but mostly I'm looking forward to you guys interacting with me here over this summer and actually figuring out what AI models are all about. And maybe you would have different answers for me towards the closing ceremony. Thank you, everyone. Do you guys have any questions for us in terms of the courses, in terms of the I'm tempted to ask about the activities, but I'm a bit worried about how many questions might come in on the basis of that. But yeah, if you have any courses, please, any questions about the courses and its process, the timings, please do ask us. I'm going to take this as a sign. We'll be able to learn skills that are scalable. Yes, for sure. We've had students who have studied at Ashoka Horizons program, and then they've gone on to study that at a collegiate level as well. So it was that introductory factor to them. And the skills that you develop are not going to be just subject specific. They're also the soft skills of being able to present your findings in a way that people can understand, the soft skills of doing the presentations, of working in a team as well. So those are things that will be really helpful. And in harnessing your AI superpower, you would get the skill of being able to understand how the LLM model that you're actually speaking to is working. So these classes would be happening online on weekends only from 11 to 1 on Saturdays and Sundays. The price is 25,000 along with GST. And these online classes are also supplemented with office hours that happen throughout the week. So you'll actually get one-on-one sessions with Mihir as well, so that you can actually solve some of the projects and the questions that you have in mind with him. Yes, you will be. There's a question about whether we'll do our own projects. And yes, you will be doing your own projects. You would actually be working on your own Ngram models. Thank you, Swabiman, for being so engaged in the session as well. Any other questions, guys? Happy to stay back and answer them. All right. Thank you, Abir. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. In case of any questions that you may have, please feel free to reach out to us on our email ID that's been shared. We've also shared our website link here. We look forward to seeing you in the summer. All right. Have a nice day, everyone.